Oh my god, here we are. We're back at it with no pants. As usual. You don't need to know that. I apologize. What are we here to talk about? You guys know. I don't even need to say the fucking name. I'm wearing the color. The book is wearing the color. My tattoos are wearing the color. Y'all know what time it is. Y'all know what movie it is. I drooled. That's chaotic. Deadpool and Wolverine. That's what we're here to talk about. Wow. When I went this way, the shine made it look like I was balding. And I was like, what the fuck? I'm not anywhere near the appropriate age for that. Anyway, so Deadpool and Wolverine. Oh my god. All right, so all I'm going to tell you is I've seen it twice in the last 24 hours, right? I'm about to see it a third time tomorrow. 3 times in less than 48 hours. If that doesn't tell you what you need to know about the movie, I don't know what will, or about my opinion. But listen. I'm here to spoil every fucking thing. Everything. Because I don't have enough followers and not enough people watching. And I don't upload enough either. So that's mostly my fault. But the point being is, I don't care enough to not spoil because I'm so fucking excited. I'm fucking excited. So we're just going to go in. Deadpool and Wolverine. My God. The expectations for this film were like sky high, right? Now, everyone's expectations were sky high, but for their own particular reasons, right? So for me, this film had to check off a few boxes, right? Number one, it had to be a story that evolved Deadpool as a character. Can't have the third film and just have him, as he says in this film, just be a one-trick pony where it's just, you know, his thing is just humor, and here's this one very low stakes thing, especially when you're ushering him into the MCU where everything is fucking high stakes, or it's supposed to be, which is to reflect on the quality of some of the movies in the last couple years, which have not been good. But neither here nor there. My point is, you had to evolve the character, right? And number two is Deadpool and Wolverine. You have to justify bringing back Wolverine after that killer fucking conclusion in Logan, right? And number three, this is like essentially the comic book Deadpool Kills the Fox universe. Well, as close as we can get to it in live action, right? And this has to be a tribute to what came before it. That generation, that 2000s early generation, right? Early 2000s generation of modern, that first wave of modern Marvel films. The X-Men, the Fantastic Four, Daredevil. Whether you like it or not, those movies are relevant. They are now part of the lineage. They're part of this. They've been ushered in just because the multiverse saga exists. That validates everything that's come before. And so, how do you justify that? How do you vindicate that? Like, not all the films were good. So are you going to be self-referential about that? Are you going to make fun of it? Are you going to give these characters the ending they deserve? The justification for why they existed, why they should continue? There's a lot. Now, granted, I may think that that's what's important, but the film has its own plans. I had expectations, and I can say with full confidence, this is my favorite Marvel film. Okay? I know Endgame exists, Infinity War exists, No Way Home exists, Civil War exists, Winter Soldier exists. Those are some of my favorite Marvel films in the MCU. This is my current favorite. Shang-Chi. Shang-Chi is like top 3 for me. I love Shang-Chi. That being said, why does this stick out the way it does for me? A few things. This is the multiverse film that we all wanted from Multiverse of Madness and didn't fully embrace and get. That film didn't embrace the concept fully. And obviously, given the multiple rewrites and all this shit, a lot of stuff was left on the cutting room floor that we all know about now. Concept art, story, plots. It's kind of a tragedy. That being said, this movie is what we wanted fully realized. And I would say, for me, even though No Way Home was such a high point, I think it does a better job with the cameos, or not the cameos, I'm sorry, because the cameos are a big part for both, narratively speaking, but I would say that it does a better job in utilizing this convergence of universes, right? The reasoning behind it is a lot more in depth and it makes a lot more sense. And overall, this is kind of a self-sustained film, even though it is Deadpool's ushering into, this cult that is the MCU. Even though it is Deadpool's, inauguration, initiation, like this is still very self-contained. You can see this simply as a movie about him and his character development, which is very heartfelt. You can see this simply as a buddy duo cop-like film as well, with the dynamics of something like 48 Hours, Bad Boys, Rush Hour. It has that cadence. You can see this as a self-contained story about Wolverine's vindication. And Wolverine's arc is another interesting thing, because how are you gonna do this and justify giving Logan another story after his masterful end? Like, Logan is a masterpiece and it's a perfect climax, it's a perfect end. We all know this. The expectations coming off of that were already like, wow, if you're gonna bring him back, you better fucking do it. And I would say that this absolutely does. This gives us, if not a more peak Wolverine than Logan, in the sense that he's not old, he's just drunk. But he is peak Wolverine in his fucking classic yellow and blue. This gives us that peak ass fucking Wolverine. That angry berserk fucking cigar chewing Wolverine that we fucking wanted. And it's fucking delicious. I love it. I was eating this shit up. It was amazing. Even my chair is excited. The shit was fantastic. His portrayal, this peak form of Logan, of Wolverine that we got, I think is absolutely perfect. If this was his send-off, I would be perfectly fine. That being said, I know that this is not where it's going to stop, because even Deadpool references the fact that Disney's going to make him do this till he's 90. He says it twice, just so you know. Yeah, absolutely. I think that this film is self-contained, does justice to the two characters, and in the cameos department, fuck me sideways. The cameos were fantastic. If they weren't spoiled for you, they were excellent. I'm going to spoil them for you. So, number one, get ready. If you don't want to hear this, get the fuck off. Go away. Go cook something. Go take a shit. Come back in about 5 minutes, or just skip. I don't know what to tell you, but I'm going to spoil it all. So, Blade, Wesley Snipes as Blade, Jennifer Gardner as Elektra Nachos, Channing Tatum as Gambit, and Chris Evans, not as Captain America, but as Johnny Storm from the Fantastic Four. What just a perfect, tight use of cameos that just makes sense. Johnny Storm coming back. How are you going to miss an opportunity to mention how Chris Evans is both Captain America and Johnny Storm? Come on. That you can't, no. It would not be a Deadpool movie if that did not exist. I was fully anticipating that, period. Jennifer Gardner and Wesley Snipes returning as their fucking heroic characters that we know them. Blade, my God. I mean, I'm still grieving not getting a fourth film. I love Wesley Snipes as Blade. I would love to get old man Blade, get my man Wesley Snipes in a full-fledged film, because I mean, I talk about milking it, but like, I love this guy. He still has that Daywalker fucking swag, or just like the way he talks and just the way he drops his one-liners. Like, you know that classic line of some motherfuckers are skate uphill or trying to skate uphill. He uses it in this again, and I got triggered because he says some motherfuckers are still trying to skate uphill, and I was like, he said the thing. I got shivers. It was amazing. It was incredible. I loved it so much. But his swag is still there. His attitude is there. His fucking like just the badassness, that tonality in his voice. And my God, my man's like 60, and he looks good as shit, rocking the bladeness. So get him in for one more movie, or bring him into Secret Invasion, get him into Midnight Suns. I know they're trying to kick off Mahershala Ali, but as someone who has worked for Marvel and has, through the grapevine, has had and learned about the script rewrites and been there on the original set of what was supposed to be an 1800s New Orleans themed Blade, and they said, nah, fuck that, the script ain't right, so they tumble. I was there for that. And like, I genuinely want them to get it right? I genuinely want them to get it right. But in the meantime, give my boy Wesley Snipes another shot. Please, 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 please. That being said, he was great. Elektra, I loved. It's like she didn't miss a beat. She's still rocking. She just looks like she's like Elektra, but MILF status. She's a little older. She got a little gray, but she looks good. She's a badass. She didn't lose. She's got her fucking size. Amazing. Channing Tatum as Gambit. Obviously, we all talked. We haven't talked about shit, but obviously, the general pop culture has understood that he's been trying to play Gambit for a while, and that never took off. And he never lost hope, and he finally got his shot. The thing is, they played him for laughs, and I'm not mad at it because they gave him a comic accurate costume. And people want comic accuracy, we got it. But it looks ridiculous and they know it, so they made fun of it. His Cajun accent, my God, it's terrible. And every 5 seconds, Deadpool was mentioning and commenting on his dialect coach and who it was. Fantastic. But when it came down to the action sequence, Channing Tatum kicked ass. He genuinely gave us full Gambit in his glory, and it was perfection. So I think the ensemble little team that they had going, this little sort of team of outcasts, right, of rejects that we love, was used phenomenally. Absolutely love them. I have nothing in that. They have a standout fight sequence in the third act that really just, it's just wonderful to see them all in action. If this is the last time we ever see these characters, I'm happy they got the send-off they did, because it was badass. It was just badass. It was just great. And I mean, that's all you can do. We didn't even think we were going to get these characters. We got them, and the fact that we got them in such a high-end fashion was just fantastic. So I'm super happy with what they did with the cameos. We do get Sabretooth, we get Toad. We also get Henry Cavill playing one of the Wolverine variants, which was short-lived. It was like no more than like 20 seconds cumulatively, but it was totally worth it. He fits the part. The guy's built. He could absolutely be the next Wolverine, and in no way, shape, or form would I even flare a nostril at it. He's perfect, but I don't know if they are. That being said, I would love for him to be in the continuity. He's perfect, genuinely. If you see that scene and you get that same vibe, you'll get that same vibe that I got. He's perfect. We also got a really cool scene where Deadpool is hunting for a new Wolverine to help him save his universe, which I won't get into because this video will be fucking 54 minutes long, but obviously he needs a Wolverine to save his universe, so he's looking for different variants, and we get all these different versions of Wolverine from a comic accurate Short King. Looked terrible, but it was hilarious. We also get a comic accurate brown and orange suit that he used to fight the Hulk. There is a quick scene of the Hulk. We don't get a full fight, but we do get sort of the setup, and that was very sweet. That was a great ode. We get a look at Wolverine Apocalypse. We get a look at it's escaping me, it's eluding me, but if you're familiar with all of these comic book variant covers, you will like flip the fuck out. It was really wonderful to see, especially so early on in the film, because they're showing you what they're willing to give you. And that was the setup. That was the first 30 minutes. The action sequences, my God, keep in mind, this guy directed, Night at the Museum, Free Guy, what is the Frankie Muniz movie, Big Liar, Big Pretty Liar? No, I'm confusing them. You know what I mean. There's a blue guy in it, Paul Giamatti. Anyway, this guy directed this movie. You would have never thought, you would have never guessed that this man was capable of shooting such highly stylized, beautifully choreographed action sequences. There are some standouts, particularly the beginning fight sequence with Deadpool, simultaneously being cross-edited with him dancing to NSYNC's Bye Bye Bye. I was laughing and gasping at how brutal and violent everything was. Loved it. There's two extended fight sequences with Wolverine and Deadpool, which was bloody as all fucking hell. Like, these guys don't die, they regenerate constantly, so they just went all in. It's like, oh, how far can we push their bodies? And they did. Two perfect fight sequences. Perfect length, perfect cinematography, perfect choreography, perfection. Then you have some really bloody kills. Really, particularly Johnny Storm. Johnny Storm gets fucking fatality'd like a motherfucker. Mortal Kombat, watch this, and they must be taking notes, because there are some really gory, violent, brutal, grotesque kills, and they go straight up massacre, murders, butcherings, just insanity. And I loved every second of it, particularly the one with Johnny Storm, because that happened out of nowhere. My whole theater gasped. We all like had a cumulative coming of age, orgasmic, gasping, simultaneous, orchestral. You get what I'm saying? It was all at once. We all came. It was insane. It was fucking wild. That was great. Then we get a fight sequence with the team, the Rebels, which are who I just mentioned, all the cameos, who I don't want to call cameos because they're genuinely they're important to the story. They are the rebellion standing up against Cassandra Nova, which is the big baddie in this film, who is overpowered as fuck and is the twin of Charles Xavier. I even think by the comic book standards, she's overpowered here. She's overpowered in the comic books 100%. They weren't able to. I do hate that they killed her off in this one, because she's so overpowered. They could have easily used her for 2 more movies. I genuinely think that she deserved a little bit more. But I will say, as far as like the standard for villains, this is the best villain we've had since Thanos. I genuinely believe so. She's fun and chaotic and whimsical and unnerving and overpowered. I just really enjoyed her. And a step up from everything we've had in the last like couple years. So loved her, loved Cassandra Nova, absolutely loved it. But we have a fight sequence where they're breaking into her base, which is basically Ant-Man's giant decomposed body. And there's a really solid action sequence in there. My only little nick is that there's a lot of shaky cam in that scene, so you can tell there's amazing choreography in that scene, and there's a fluidity to all of the action. But on occasion, it does shake a little bit, just a little bit, and it was just like, man, you could tell the choreography is so fluid and the action sequence is so crazy, but there's so many particle effects and so much going on that it's definitely gonna be one of those scenes where I'm like pausing and playing. I think that scene could have been a little cleaner, and it's not it's a stylistic choice, so I'm not going like, oh, it was terrible. But when the first 2 fight sequences with Wolverine and Deadpool were so perfectly stable and still, and you could see everything. There's so many characters on the screen that calmness behind the camera, as opposed to the shakiness that we got, would have been better, because there are so many moving elements. I mean, they literally have like what is basically a mini Civil War airport battle, where it's like the Rebels and then all of Cassandra Nova's like badass motherfuckers, who are all like also cameos for the most part. They're all like, they run into each other, they clash, and it's chill-inducing. My whole theater lost their mind. I lost my mind. And not to mention the cinematography. Like, the action sequences as a whole are incredible, but there are some amazing still frames in this film. Like, they get to this base by driving in a minivan, and when they're all coming out of the minivan in slow motion, it sounds fucking nerdy, but they're playing a T.I. song while this is happening, which is ridiculous. And it's all happening in slow motion, but they all look so good together. And I just got chills, because I didn't go into this film expecting an ensemble superhero movie. I really did not. And that's what I got. I just thought I was going to get these two. And I was happy with that. And then I got this part of this film, this reject team. And I was so happy to see this, because it wasn't throwaway. It genuinely felt like it felt like an iconic moment. It felt like something stripped right out of the comic book strips. And this film, out of all the Marvel films as of recently, even since Endgame, has the most awe-striking, awe-inspiring cinematography where you go, that was ripped right out of a comic book panel. This feels like a comic book in motion. This is a comic book brought to life. There are multiple moments where the camera slows down at the right amount of time and you get these slow motion shots with these still frames exactly where they need to be so that you could admire this potential comic book cover. And I was just genuinely happy with the amount of love behind and in front of the camera, but particularly behind, because most of these films are shot by committee, right? So there's a continuity, there's a style, there's an expectation, and they're fun as all hell. But this one, out of all of them, had a very distinct stylistic taste to it that was just, every 5 minutes, I had something to look at and go, oh my God, the suits, the still frame, the background, everything was... And by MCU standards, the special effects on this were better than they have been in a very long time. Then we get a couple more action sequences with Deadpool Corps coming in to help Cassandra Nova kill Deadpool and Wolverine. That scene, definitely a standout. One uninterrupted shot of them butchering and killing all the Deadpools just so that at the end of it, they can all regenerate. And it's like, fuck. Such a great scene. How that scene ends was even funnier. But it's funnier to watch it than for me to explain it. And then ultimately... the final push to stop Cassandra Nova. And let me fucking tell you, when it comes to like using music, like, you know, with copyrighted music, like, you know, with lyrics, they used Madonna's song for this sequence, but they used the slowed down heavy percussion version of it while this huge story moment is happening where Deadpool and Wolverine really have to work together to stop the, you know, inevitable end of their reality. And between the cinematography in that scene, the fact that we have these two fully comic accurate characters fully donning their masks, their costumes, everything, using their powers that they're known for in the comics together to stop this high-end mutant together while the music is playing, showing flashbacks of every moment that's built up to this emotionally. Something about this scene felt so succinct, so perfect, so composed. I struggle to think of any other moment in the MCU that hit this hard aside from the obvious Endgame and Infinity War moments in the theater. There is just something that came so perfectly together in this movie that I can't really put my finger on it. Now, keep in mind, this is not a movie for the critics. Fuck the critics. This is a movie for people who grew up on the X-Men fandom. These are for the people who grew up on the 2000s modern wave of superhero films. This is for people who love the crass nature of Deadpool, who still miss Wolverine and want to see peak Berserker Wolverine. This is for comic book fans. This is for the casual. This is for the pop culture enthusiast. And it blends it all to perfection. And the reason I say that this is my favorite MCU movie right now, more so than Civil War, Winter Soldier, Endgame, Infinity War, No Way Home, Guardians of the Galaxy 3, Shang-Chi. Keep in mind, these are all movies that mean so much to me. The reason I say this is my favorite is not because it's objectively better. No. It is because of the resounding impact that I had watching the movie and realizing that this is the closest we have gotten to watching a comic book come to life, where you have crossover events in comic books like it's confetti. Every other month, someone's crossing over with someone, or there's a huge crossover event, whether it's DC or Marvel. This is a genuine crossover event. Sure, we had No Way Home, and we were building up to Endgame and Infinity Game, but no one was foreshadowing this. And like a comic book that just dropped out of nowhere, Deadpool and Wolverine come out and say, we're going to give you the best crossover event. And it's only going to take 2 characters. And we're just going to drop it on your lap. And then with no promise of like ever doing it again, or, you know, of how it's going to happen again, just leave. And it's a testament to the people that made this film, the Ryan, the Hugh, the Levi, or Levy, to go into this film, create something that's so ambitious, yet so self-contained, in a world that's already ambitious and robust with lore, and make this film feel like it stands alone. I mean, this has a beginning, a middle, and end. And you only really need to know the continuity of the first 2 Deadpools and Logan to really feel the impact of the story. Everything else that you need to know is so that the context around the main story makes sense. The cameos, the set pieces, parts of the set pieces. But outside of that, you absolutely don't need to know everything to enjoy this film. And I think that this hit the absolute perfect balance. And of course Loki, because you got to know what the TVA is. But as far as you're concerned, if you're someone who hasn't kept up, the TVA are bad. They control time and space, reality, multiversal realities, timelines. They're bad in this one for said reason. And it gets explained to you. You don't need the full context of Loki and all that to understand it. This is a self-contained film in a universe that is ambitious with lore. And I feel like this did it better than most. It doesn't lead into anything else. It leaves opportunity open if you wanted to like pull Wolverine and put him in something, which we know Secret Invasion is happening. We know we're going to get Hugh in there. We know we're going to get all the classic Tobey Maguire, and we know we're going to get that. But if you didn't know that was coming, this is good. This is such a happy, joyful fucking movie experience. The ones that I go to the movie for. This is that in spades. It's not a perfect movie, but it doesn't need to be. It just needs to entertain. That's it. Entertain. And it needs to have an emotional, root. It needs to be honest to the characters. It needs to be fun. It needs to be funny. And on every fucking spectrum, it succeeded in being what it needed to be. A funny, self-referential, violent, loving tribute to what makes superhero films so fucking entertaining when they're good. This is definitely my favorite MCU movie, period. I worked on Captain America 4. And I could be biased and say, oh, that's going to be the best one ever. No, I didn't work on this. But I am over the hill that I saw this. And I'm going to see it again tomorrow. And I'm going to happily own it on Blu-ray. And it's please, just go watch it, even with all the spoilers I gave you. My words do not even remotely come close to the weight of emotion you will feel seeing all that realized on the big screen. So that is my review. My discussion. Sorry, not review. We don't do reviews here. We discuss. So that's it. That's it. I'm going to watch it again. And yeah. Until next time, the next movie review should be... I know Alien Romulus is coming out in 3 weeks. I'm so excited. I know Trap is coming out, the new M. Night Shyamalan movie. I'm not a big M. Night guy. This one looks good. So much left to happen. Anyway, I'm going to go and put on some pants. Goodbye, guys.